Hi, my name is Al Green. Not that one, but the struggling guy who was in the music industry for years trying to sell talent and songs to agents. The agents befriended me and taught me techniques that I want to pass on to you through my program, which is called You Can Talk, You Can Sell. Anyone who has ever taken this program has excelled in selling and either risen to the top of their company, their team, or the top of their field. It's called You Can Talk, You Can Sell, and you can get it right here. Are you making your sales in spite of the environment that is fighting you? I was once representing a company and I had to go to Palm Springs in the summertime, and it was 108 degrees outside, and due to the formal nature of the company that I had to visit, we were wearing three-piece suits, of which mine was a three-piece wool suit, complete with the tie and a vest. And I had to go out to my car to get some literature in 108 degrees. And although I was only out there for about 3 or 4 minutes, it was excruciatingly hot. And I could only imagine what the other reps who worked that area quite frequently had to go through. A couple of years earlier, I was in Phoenix, where it was almost 115. And I also not only had to visit the company going in and out of a car that was 130 degrees when I went out to drive there, but we had to attend a business meeting at a nearby restaurant. And thank God for air conditioning, that's all I can tell you. But the interesting thing is, it's just like working in the rain. Now we're looking at summer here, and a lot of people are going to be working in outside sales jobs where they have the same kind of a problem. You're going to be dealing with extreme weather. In some cases, most of you went through the winter and you still made your rounds and visited your companies, which I applaud you for that. But at the same time, remember that in spite of the weather, if you do go out and visit your companies or your customers or go door to door, the customer looks at you like there's something very special going on here. Sometimes you can use that to your advantage to make them feel special. Mr. Jones, I know it's very important that I see you in spite of the weather. And most companies do have air conditioning. However, it's not guaranteed 100%, especially when you go visit a company and the person you're talking to decides to walk you to the back of the warehouse, which might not be air conditioning, to show you their inventory or whatever. Just be prepared for anything, because when you're prepared and you do the work anyway, then you propel yourself into being like a super rep, because not everybody will go to work when the weather has adverse conditions. If it's blazing heat, it's a very difficult thing to do. I know I've done it. I've canvassed with other reps going to a commercial area and going from one company to the next in extreme heat over 100 degrees. Now we didn't wear a three-piece suit in those days, but it was still very difficult to deal. And you walk in and the back of your shirt is wet, and it's sometimes obvious that you're sweating. And the people that you visit completely understand. But still, it's the work that you're doing. And when you do it, believe it or not, it's basically making you look like you're so into your job that you're going to do it regardless. A lot of people will not work a sales job and will not take the time to brave the heat or the extreme cold. And I understand how difficult it is. It's a lot easier to work back at the office on the phone or work out of your home. Sure, that's a lot easier. But there are contracts and there are companies that insist on in-person visitations by their representatives for many reasons. Some of them being that they want to see a person eye to eye and ask questions, and especially if you're delivering a contract. It's a lot easier to go over a contract that's got a lot of boilerplate and a lot of details and places where you have to initial and sign, coming off of a quotation and explaining how certain things work. The more time that you spend and the more patient that you have, the more you make an impression on your customer that you're very serious about what you're doing. Now remember, there's a lot of adverse conditions that people use to not work. And salespeople can be very, very evasive when it comes to doing their responsibility, simply because there's a lot of challenges and distractions that can get them away. It's lunchtime, you have to get something to eat. So you go to some restaurant or you go to a drive-through or whatever you do. And of course there's a line and you have to either go inside in air conditioning or sit in your car with the air conditioning on, which is not recommended. But you do what you have to do. And that's the whole point. In spite of whatever adverse condition is going on, you do what you have to do. Now, I'm not suggesting that you work under dangerous conditions. If it's very dangerous, just go to your company and ask them what their recommendation is for you to do. And if your company is not there, you have managers out of town and whatnot, call the customer and ask them, what do you recommend? I once went into an area that was an extremely high crime, and the companies would start closing up at 2:30 in the afternoon to get everybody off the premises by 3 o'clock. As soon as it started heading towards the nighttime, there had been issues with people getting their cars robbed and so on and so forth. And the executive that I met basically worked behind one of those tall 15-foot gates with the barbed wire on top that curls around. And he insisted we go to lunch. And when I got into the car, he insisted on driving. He was going to take me to a nice restaurant. And when I was driving with him, he had a gun sitting on the seat. And I said, "Really? You carry a gun?" He goes, "Yeah, you have to in this neighborhood." Unbelievable. He was the owner of the company. But I made the appointment. I went to lunch with the guy, and I drove through the neighborhood. And thank God there were no incidences at that time. But he said, everybody's got to be out of here at 3 o'clock. All the companies were closing up and sending their employees home at 3 because they didn't want anybody there at night except for security. Adverse? Yes, definitely adverse. Tough neighborhood? Yeah, I don't know what was going on with that. But it was a tough neighborhood. And who knows what it was. It could have been gangs. It could have been anything. But still, it didn't stop me from doing business because I was told by my boss, figure it out, get there at high noon, whatever you have to do. But my boss was telling me get there. And that's exactly what I did. I followed my boss's advice and I went there. And that was a big difference because this particular business owner that my company and I were selling to was so impressed that I just went there anyway. He said he can't get any reps to come to him because the neighborhood had such a bad reputation. And he actually told me at lunch, you know, nobody ever comes to my company and visits. He goes, we don't get salesmen. We don't get representatives come to us. The only people that deliver us are UPS and couriers. And they know how to handle that. And he goes, we don't have any problems with them. But he says, don't you dare leave your car out on the street because you're asking for trouble. And I had a station wagon, a SUV at the time that was loaded with products. And he goes, you're just a sitting duck waiting for trouble. So he had me park inside of his gated parking lot, and he had the guard close the gate afterwards. It was an interesting lesson. in getting the job done and working in spite of the adverse condition that I was in. At the same time, working in extreme heat, extreme cold, or extreme weather, in storm conditions. Sometimes it's dangerous and your companies will tell you not to go out. Fine, follow their advice. But as soon as you can make the calls in person, you'll see that an in-person call, in spite of what is going on, is going to be the better thing to do. The top executives manage to get where they need to go and do what they need to do and go to the meetings that they need to do. And that could be you. And then you will be seen by your customers and hopefully your company as a serious person that's worthy of executive privilege. And that could possibly give you a promotion in the future. So don't play with that. That's a very serious thing that will get you noticed.